Tango 1 at the top. We are at Pop-Up Vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1. You have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're doing that. The Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm your host, Tony Smith, and just like every week, I'm on a mission to challenge you and guide you to create an immediate action plan against your weaknesses. This week, our guest, I'm excited to have this guy. We just met last week for the first time, is Mark Paasman. He's coming to us from the Netherlands today. He's 43 years young, a former Royal Dutch Naval Specialist diver and search and rescue helicopter swimmer. He's a comfort zone breaker coach. He's the founder and the owner of the Mark Paasman Academy. He's the author of the soon-to-be released Liberated from PTSD. And he is on a mission to upgrade brains around the world and provide help to anyone that needs it. He's a father of 3 and a husband of 1. And he's a proud member of the Tactical Beard Owners Club. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.
Man, really appreciate you having me. I think it's, 3:30 your time right now?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. We're a couple minutes late. Mark and I, like typical meathead week, we try to figure out technology and we can't. We're good at speaking, not so good at the clicking of the buttons. So man, in this episode, I'd love to talk to you about like your crazy, interesting career. I'm like super interested in that kind of stuff. PTSD, your battle with it, your battle against it, and how you liberated yourself from it. And of course, the book and your academy and all other things, see where else the conversation goes. If you're good with that.
Yeah, sure.
What are you wearing? You got a Walter Payton jersey on? What is that? What jersey is this you're wearing? Sweetness. From the Netherlands, but an NFL fan.
Oh yeah. My father left the Netherlands when I was 9 and found his second wife in Chicago. So he's been living in Chicago for 33 years now.
Really? Do you go there often?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's only a 4-hour drive or a 45-minute plane ride for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a small. I was like, this guy's wearing a Sweetness jersey. I never knew that. Sick.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, as the Royal Dutch Naval Specialist, let's just like kind of like paint that picture for me. Like, how did that come about? Did you go right out of high school? Did you go to school? Just kind of like tell me the background there, maybe.
Yeah. I was at school and this guy came on, fully geared up and just did a recruiting run, and I was like, what? I don't want to do that. My father was in the Air Force, was an offshore roughneck for many years after that, and so there was some kind of bloodline made over there. But I just wanted to see the world and be paid to do so. Obviously, when my dad moved to Chicago, ever since I was 9, I would sit in the plane by myself. So my world view, so to speak, was quite wider than most friends, back in the 80s. Traveling to the United States was a big deal. So I had that traveling vibe quite early on. So Navy, sail around the world, and that sounded good, and be paid to do so. So went there, and one of the first things I saw was this dude climbing up a ladder on the side of this vessel. I was like, wow. So that's what I want to do.
That's cool.
Was one of the 324 divers out of 33,000 uh, how you say it, people in the defense department.
Right, enlisted
Yeah.
people. So when you join the Navy, obviously you don't become a diver immediately, right? You have to do some time, or like how does that work?
Well, the usual regulations stated you have to be operational for 2.5 years, but I managed to get through the first military trainings and then be uh, operationally deployed on the HMS Van Galen. And right after that, I managed to get into the winter course within 6 months, which was um, unheard of. But I managed to do so. I was the youngest diver ever.
Really? Oh, that's amazing. My
Yeah,
great grandfather was a Navy diver in Canada, and he's got. I mean, his equipment. I'm sure your equipment were way different. And imagine how different the equipment is today, even right? Like you're talking,
yeah.
it's wild. So, like, what kind of like how was the course hard? It must have been so hard.
Poof, yeah. It was a winter course, well over 4 months, daily grinds, a lot of theory, a lot of practical exams, and if you fail, you're out, kind of pressure. So it was on, it was on. It was a that was a proper tough cookie. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think was the most challenging part of that training?
Um. Well, I think challenging is the whole course is challenging, but however, the pressure of understanding that, for example, you had to get the shingle of this chain. You get the last piece off the chain. You get a blunt chisel and a hammer, and they throw this chain with a big piece of rock, and they throw it in the sea, and they say, "Oh, here you have 200 bars of air. Either you come up with the last piece or you're out." And you go, yeah, that pressure was something which was really tough for everybody within the course. And that meant that from the 48 guys starting, only four made it.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's an
yeah.
insane ratio.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And then what happens to the other guys? They're welcome to do it again and again, or that's it, they're done.
Well, the first 16, they dropped off within the first 2 hours because they had to do the swim test within the pool, like going underwater and hold your breath and get into this machine, and they tumble you just to see how you react under stress and what do you do, how do you react, and they just go cherry picking. Okay, you out, you out.
That's crazy,
Uh,
man. Did you have a
yeah.
background in swimming? Like, did you swim in high school, or did you just swim for fun before?
Well, we all in Holland we all swim starting from I think the age of 11, 12. You start swimming at school. So I had three diplomas, including sea swimming, before I was 14.
Oh my God. Wow.
So that's normal here in Holland. However, I trained my ass off for at least 6 months before I went into the course. I was
Yeah.
I was an animal. I would be running around, start running from the base to the how do you call that? Uh, lighthouse, which is 6 miles, and I would have carry a backpack with my weight belt, 3 kg, like 6 pounds.
Yeah.
Start running to the lighthouse, take off my shoes, put my socks in the shoes, put on the weight belt, and just march into the sea and start swimming. Do about 6 laps and then go back. Up, animal.
Wow. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
in high school, it was Christmas break here, and Christmas break is during basketball season. I was a pretty good football and basketball player, and one
Hmm.
of my friends is like, "Hey, we have swim practice today. You should come." So I'm like, yeah, okay, it'll be a good workout during while our games are off, right? So I go, and like some of the other guys are like, oh, there's that guy's, he's the all-star football player. Wait till he gets in the water. They said today we're practicing long distance, and you had to swim. It was some ridiculous amount of laps. I remember like the first two, I was okay. I don't move that well in the water. Like I don't float very well apparently. Then the next laps, I had a flutter board. I think by 10 lengths, I was like on the side of the water, like outside on the deck, like laying there, like near dead. Like
Give me
swimming,
oxygen.
swimming is hard, man. That is like some hard work. Like even at the police academy, we had to do a triathlon for fun, and I was in first place by so much. And then I got in the pool, and like so many people passed me because I was so inefficient with my air in that water.
Yeah, it's
So
it's a technique for sure.
yeah, I mean, it kind of goes with your oxygen. Like it's a technique that can benefit a lot of things, I think, right? With the swimming and the oxygen, like not using too much of it. So you
Well, not
said you
only,
want
but
to.
also your body position. If you drag your midsection through the water, a lot of people don't know, but there's a technique where you literally become an arrow within the water. If you do a chest crawl, many people go through the water like this,
Yeah,
and
that's
they
me.
and
I'm
they
not an
claim, yeah,
arrow.
but I'm a negatively buoyant. So that's ridiculous. It's a technique to go through. So,
I'm
anyways,
definitely not an arrow. So man, you got into the Navy with you wanted to see the world, and I know when we talked last week, we you kind of hit on a little bit. I'd love to know a little bit more of it. Like, what were some of the missions you did, and what are some of the cool places you've seen?
well, when I finished the naval diver uh, course, not soon after, about 3 months, we had this. Every year it comes back here in Rotterdam in September. They have this like the World um Harbor Days, and like all different type of navies come together there. It's very busy, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people come there. But they have uh, this routine with the helicopter as well, where they perform and show off, and I was like, wow, that looks very cool. So I went back to my lieutenant. I says, listen, I saw this guy jumping out of the helicopter. Is that something we can do from this base as well? He says, yeah, yeah, it's over there. But you just finished your Navy diver course. I said, "Hey, but I want that too." So I managed to get in, uh, which is pretty crazy because you don't fly and dive on the same day. That's impossible. But I persevered and I managed to get in. And so that made me extremely operational. So they put me on board and they sent me to the Caribbean for hurricane season. And so I've seen the complete North America and South America and the Caribbean during a hurricane season because we also did drugs reinforcement sorties, working together with the U.S. Coast Guard. So that side of the planet I've covered. Then after I left, when I honorably discharged, I fled to Southeast Asia, where I lived in Japan, I lived in Hong Kong, I lived in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Thailand, Indonesia, as a dive instructor. So in the end, I did a count a couple of years ago. I came out at 92 countries.
Oh wow, that's incredible! 92 countries.
Yeah.
So this might be a hard question for you, but first of all, for the diving, did you teach at hotels, like resorts, or did you kind of like just jump on your own thing? Like, what did you do? How did that work out?
I first started out, the first dive center I walked into was on Phuket Island in Thailand, and it says, "Hey, I'm Mark. So this is my diving resume," and they were like, "Come in." And so yeah, I want to just teach people some diving, and okay, so but we need to change the way you work from to a more kind way of working. So hey, sorry about that.
No
The
problem.
lions woke up. So to petty. So I did a petty course going from dive instructor to specialty diver and all these like night diving and nitrox, all different types of mixes and whatnot. So when I did that, I started um, teaching tourists how to dive. But that's one of the key moments for me when I found out that I was able to connect with people in very high stressful situations and calm them down and teach them stuff. Because in the end, so from the 4.5 years I fled, the all the troublemakers, like the people, like I'm scared, I'm claustrophobic, they would call me and say, Mark, we got another one, come. That's the moment where I realized I could break comfort zones.
It's funny how
So
like
that's
your skills, and I find the same here at the gym and the other stuff that I do, is how your skills that you kind of took for granted can really like carry over into, like, let's call it the civilian world, right? It is pretty wild, and it is a great realization. Like I totally get what you say when you say that. So I went diving in Mexico once, but I was only like 18. We're there partying like a bunch of idiots. Some guy just comes up on the beach and says, "Hey, you guys want to go diving?" So me and my friends, we've probably been drinking all day too, so not safe. Get on this little piece of shit boat. He drives us out, and like it's Acapulco, you can't see anything. The water's so dirty, and puts me in first. But this is like the instruction that they gave. I didn't take a course or anything. He says, "Okay, do this, and if it gets to this number on your gauge, do this to me because it means you're out of air." And so he puts me on the line and puts me down, but then he's got to dress all my friends still. So I'm like sitting at the bottom of the ocean, like not really that low, I'm sure, and I'm hanging onto this rope, and I just feel like a piece of bait. By the time he gets all my friends in, I'm like out of air, and I'm doing this to him, and he keeps giving me thumbs up, like, "No, you're fine." And it was the worst organized thing ever. I ended up like I got stung by a jellyfish. Like it was totally not professional. So I can appreciate that. It would have been much cooler to go with a guy like you, even if you were intense.
that's a horror story right there.
Yeah, that's how people
You know,
die,
it's
right?
funny. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a funny story though. This is not a thumbs up on the water. This means get your ass up to the surface.
Oh, and I wasn't listening. So it's my fault. It was
He
the
was like, this dumb.
broken English, too many Coronas, dive school that I went to. I think that was killing me.
That is so
That
funny.
almost killed me. All right, man. So let's get into like some of the more like intense stuff that you and I spoke about. We have a lot in common. It was great chatting with you last week. Our wives have the same name. We're the
Mm.
same age. We have all these things in common. So you said around I don't want to misquote you. Like 2015 was when you started to have kind of things all caught up with you. Some of the things you had experienced and some of the traumas you had, right?
No, in 2015, the front of a car fucked things up.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I got hit by a car with 45 miles an hour whilst doing about 20 miles an hour on my triathlon bike. So that was life saying, I was fleeing, so to speak, hiding behind masks, um, which I didn't know. Uh, I mean, over 2 decades, I was doing pretty good. I had a good career in the offshore industry. Uh, I was about um, 3 months in being self-employed when I got hit by that car, and I got misdiagnosed. In Is that with you or here?
Well, you're probably hearing, yeah, people leaving the gym.
Ah, okay. Um,
Oh, all the tier one
so
guys. Hey, they clue in. They think somebody's coming in the house when they when they hear the
oh yeah.
door open. That's the creaking of my
What?
gym door. Yeah, everybody's like, whoa, whoa. Sorry, man, keep going.
Um, so I got misdiagnosed. So I hit that car. I've never saw the car coming. I hit the deck face first. I'm out. I'm gone. I'm lifeless. Within the hospital, arriving at the hospital, they regain my consciousness, and I go through the whole shebang. So the MRI and blah blah blah, and they say you're fine. You just stay one night over because we think you got a concussion. And 11 in the morning the next day, I get released with a nice strip of tramadol and bye. And I'm like, guys, this something is wrong here. No, 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 it's fine. It's, swelling. It takes me 10 weeks and four surgeons to to finally get one to say, okay, we'll do another check instead of no, we look at the MRIs, you're fine. And at a different hospital, the fourth surgeon says, oh my God, your whole shoulder, there's no ligaments more attached. You should have been operated immediately. And that lump, which would be miraculously absorbed by my body, that's a piece of bone. And I'm like, okay, so now what? Well, we got to tear everything apart again so we can reconstruct it. So I went to the cream of the crop, to the one of the best clinics where all the soccer players go to when they get hurt. And I get operated on, and it feels it's soul crushing. The pain is soul crushing, but it's such a success, and they want to use my case as an example. Blah blah blah. I spent 2.5 years getting addicted to tramadol, oxycodone, all the different type of candies you can get, opiates and whatnot, and I'm going downhill. I have extreme pains on a daily basis. After 2.5 years talking to six different surgeons, six different hospitals, they found out at the clinic they repaired my shoulder in a wrong way. The bones were too close, and they started to tear in and break off. And during the second operation, they found a tie rip cutting through the bone to about 40%. And they went like, well, Mr. Paasman, you really had a lot of pain in the last 2.5 years. Yes, like nerve pain, real nerve pain. I was like trying to grab him with my IV. Like, I'm gonna. It was bad times, bad times.
Man. So
Yeah.
that had to be like, what was the like the drugs alone were to try to like mask that pain, right? But like that's all it is. It's like a band-aid, right? It feels good until it doesn't. And then, but did you feel addicted to these things? Like, did you feel like
Oh
you
yeah.
like more for like, I guess what I'm asking is, did you feel like you needed them more for the pain, or did you feel like you needed them just for everyday coping at one point?
Everyday coping. I would
Wow.
pop 8 to 10 tramadol a day.
Oh, you're a beast.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, wow, man.
I,
So,
I mean, I was a walking candy store, just popping them.
and so this
Yeah.
obviously took your like, that had to be just hard on your whole psyche and your like your soul. Like, you're an active guy. You're an outdoors guy. You're obviously, you like to be in the water, like doing all these things. Fitness, I'm sure, is part of your life. And now all that's come to a crash. Are you married at the time?
Not married. I was together.
Together, okay, with kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, man. So that's a lot to deal with. A lot to deal with,
Well,
especially as a father, right?
at some point I didn't dare to sleep anymore because the re-experiences and the nightmares became so intense. It was my past basically saying, so now it's our turn. You need to listen. And that scared the living shit out of me. Either it was extreme sports or I was drinking a lot in order to mask the scars from my operational days. So it was either or, and I couldn't do the sports anymore because I was having so much pain. So yeah, it was a very hard time.
So
So being scared, being as a grown man, being scared to go to sleep That's not okay.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So what were the symptoms? So we kind of like we missed that part. So what were the symptoms that started to creep back from the past, from your military and your diving kind of like traumas? What were the first symptoms you started to see? So you had the nightmares. What
But then
else?
I've had the nightmares for 22 years already.
Wow.
So, but the nightmares were always non-fictive. So the true act, like I fell out of the sky in a helicopter whilst unbuckled as a search and rescue jumper, and we fell into a spin, and I just hang on the cabin door, and miraculously the pilot, just meters above the water deck, he regains control of the bird, and I get pulled back by the operator, and I go back with a scream, go no, and I see the guy who I was tasked to save. I see him drown in front of my eyes, and that was my first event, which is something I carried for 22 years by myself because I couldn't talk about it because my best friends would say, Jesus, what, that's James Bond shit. Here's a beer. So I realized I couldn't talk about those emotions and things I saw, blah, blah, blah. And so I realized I had to do that or fight that battle by myself. Now, after the accident, I went through physical rehabilitation in centers and blah, blah, blah. But when I started talking to the psychologist about the pain I experienced and the nightmares, they said, well, you should have said something because now we can do the EMDR, like the eye dissociation, whatever. Do you know EMDR?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
with the stick?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
kind of. It's
Oh,
EMDR, right?
yeah, yeah.
EMDR.
Very eye desensitization and re
Yeah,
something,
eye
whatever.
movement desensitization and reprocessing.
There you go.
A non-traditional type of psychotherapy. Google saved me. Growing in popularity.
Horrible.
Horrible. So
Horrible. Oh yeah, 16 weeks of that shit. And it actually got me mixing fictive and non-fictive. So my nightmares became not the real story anymore. Now this guy, for example, climbs out of this big ass printer. It's all swollen up and well, it's a long story, but the point is I went from bad to really, really bad. Like not trusting anybody, walking around armed, getting ready for I don't know what. You know, it was bad, and that's when the Veterans Affairs came about and they said, "Listen, we need to talk because we hear some bad stories." And that's the moment I got diagnosed with multiple military trauma for the first time.
yeah, something I want to ask you. You kind of like triggered something with me there. Is that I find like I have journals and journals of some of these things that I wrote down before I kind of took care of myself, I guess. And the I was always struggling. Like at some point, I don't know what parts are true and what parts my brain kind of made up. You know, like when I read these things back, like I don't necessarily remember every step of every bad call or shitty thing, right? And then sometimes I'm
Mhm.
like, man, was that even part of me? Is that something I heard? Is that something I actually did, or is that something I just completely made up? And that you were
Mm.
experiencing that too, right?
Um, well, not if something was true. I could definitely define what was fictive and non-fictive. So the operations during the operational deployments, there were several events which I can sketch or write out or explain in very detailed manner what happened. But the point is, when those white coats started digging in my brain mm, during the nights, things turned around and it became like fictive, not true. Like how this guy who drowned before my eyes, who had the safe, is now climbing out of a printer and kills me in a concrete space whilst I'm fighting him
Right. Okay.
over and over and over again, that's fake news, right? That's not true.
I hope so.
But yeah, right. But the point is that mentally I thought I was losing it because for 22 years it was that which I carried and nobody knew is becoming now. I'm waking up screaming and sweating and think I'm losing it. What's going on? And the moment I said something about that to the shrink, she said, "Oh, hold on, your time is up. Yeah, we'll send you a report, and yeah, so that's the door. Bye." So yeah, that's how that went.
So then you started to take matters in your own hands, right? You start to read and educate yourself.
Nope, nope. No, then the VA came and then they said, okay, so you got PTSD. We were going to help you, brother. So that was like a very strange sort of feeling of recognition. Give it a name. And they have all these types of clinics in the Netherlands, but some are the specialist clinics for veterans, like C45. That's the name. And I figured, okay, this is the last time you're going to do your story. Do it. You muscle up every ounce of courage you can do and just go to that clinic. And I remember very well. I had not slept at all that night, curled up on the couch, extreme pain in the shoulder, my neck, and my lower back. And I walk into in C45 and I get directed to the room number 2. And I open the door and I step in and I look up and I see this kid. And I'm like, oh, sorry, wrong. No, come in. I'm your therapist. And that's how it went. I had 3 conversations in 4 hours time with 3 women under 25 years old in a specialized veterans clinic. So I ran out. I was gone. I went off grid. They let me go and I let them go. And that's when things got dangerous. I mean, I was looking for the off button, so to speak. Yeah.
Wow, man.
Then Daniela managed to get a new house in a small city near Rotterdam, and it's here where I started to study again. Study in neuroplasticity, neuroscience, but also spirituality and energy and so and something happened there. I started seeing connections and I started to get extremely motivated to find a solution. And that after hundreds and hundreds of hours of studying, I mean, I read about 31 books for 12 months and making connections and writing and writing and writing. And finally, I got this hypothesis of 9 steps. And I looked at it and I told Danielle, I said, I think I got it. So I tested that hypothesis on myself, and within a week, I did not have any nightmares anymore. I slept without earplugs suddenly. I walked on the streets without any weapons. It was a complete different perspective, so to speak, on my behalf, which was shocking. I mean, I didn't recognize myself, but how is it possible after so many years of nightmares, now suddenly I was sleeping? How? I was flabbergasted. So at some point I realized that I had something in my hands here, like, okay, this can help other brothers as well. So I called uh, uh, a guy I know who has a scratch on the record as well, so to speak, and I says, I need your brain for 48 hours, and I'm going to do a full knowledge transfer to you. So we went on a survival trip outdoor And I basically just plugged him in like the Matrix, and just shoved everything I knew in his brain in 2 days. And within a month, he calls me up. He says, "Mark, you need to do something with this because I am sleeping like I've never slept before." I was like, my goodness, right? So I called the VA, I called the Ministry of Defense, I called so many organizations, and they were like, "Oh wow, yeah, no." So and that blew my mind. I was like, how is that possible? So I decided to put the whole methodology in a book. And on March 12th, there's the Dutch launch. The former commander of armed forces read the manuscript, and he is very enthusiastic. He says this is going to save a lot of lives. So I got the English version basically done. So that will be you know I'm looking into Kindle and all that kind of stuff, how to do that. I'm not, I train about 5 veterans a week right now, so I don't have a lot of time. The point is that there's a solution, and I have liberated 14 veterans from PTSD in the last 12 months successfully, sustainably.
That's so interesting. So you've been putting this to practice. You've now created the
Yep.
book. One, I mean, studying it couldn't have been easy either. The neurology, psychology, even spirituality. That's a lot to dive into. And you remember we were speaking. You were like, they weren't even in your native tongue, right? Like most of these books you're reading were in English. Your English is fantastic, but like I'm sure when you're reading like the most complicated literature you could ever put your hands on, it becomes a challenge. That's pretty incredible. So
100%.
what if somebody wanted to reach out to you? Like we do have a lot of veterans that listen to this show, police, fire, first responders, and military. What would they do? What's the first step? Like, are you actively taking people on? Like, I know you want to help as many as possible, but there's got to be a limit to how many you can actually service, right?
Yeah, we're working on this. Obviously, if with regards to brothers or sisters who are listening right now and they think I need to talk with this dude, yeah, go to the website and just fill in the form, right? That's the easiest way. Or send me an email at info@markpaasman.academy. Just, let's get connected. Find me on social, whatever. Let's
Yeah.
start the conversation.
So you'll be able to see Mark's
But there's,
info in our show notes if you're looking for them. And Mark, so maybe like you
mm,
and I had this funny conversation last time about like, yeah, like you watched somebody drown and I watched, this thing and this thing. Like, of course you're fucked up. Like, so somebody who's listening, like, what are some of the things that might be indicators for them? I mean, you talked about nightmares. What are maybe some like stashing weapons was another one of mine. What are some other things that maybe people should be like, hey, you know what? I should talk to somebody. I should reach out to Mark or anybody for that matter. What
yeah.
would you suggest?
I remember this lieutenant from the VA sitting next to me at my old house, which was an apartment. It was like 120 square meter apartment. Just awesome, big table, and we sitting there, and he says, "Mark, do I need to explain what's going on?" He says, "Why?" "Well, you got multiple military trauma. You got PTSD, brother." I was like, "What? Why? I mean, how do you make that up?" "Well, how many go bags do you have?" "Three. Isn't that normal? Do you know what can happen? And what about these weapons then under the table?" And I go, "What? This is not the only one. I got weapons all over the house, even in my kids' place. They don't know. The rope ladder and the gas mask under the bed. I mean, come on, dude."
Yeah,
And
who
he went
doesn't have
like,
that? What's wrong with you?
so that could be a small marker to, um, yeah. The point is, you know what? I think if you are reliving the past and you are experiencing stress of of those moments or your events, and you are on a day-to-day basis have a feeling that you don't have control. For example, I would be flying all over the world during my offshore career before the accident, and I was doing very well. I was banking good money. I was doing pretty well, but those are all masks. So I would be Mark, the sales guy or the marketing guy, but the moment I walk into the hotel room, I would be Mark, military Mark, and I would be, doing my due diligence with okay, so this bag is ready to go. Am I tired enough to go to sleep? So no, I'll go to the gym and and run a half a marathon in order to knock myself out, or I would drink my ass off in order to be able to sleep. There's never a moment where I would just sit on the couch and read a normal book, for example. So it's always trying to find the escape in order to battle your demons. That could be, there's numerous things. Uh, the stories are wide. Some of them, I hear they say, well, he just stares at his phone and he's not talkative, doesn't do anything with the kids. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
disconnected is a big one.
this completely gone, right?
Yeah, I'd find that I'd
Um,
be having conversations and I would be at dinner and like nothing would register, and then
right.
you just come back or driving to work was one of those ones for me where I would like not remember driving to work because I'd be so thinking about, like you said, reliving the past, right?
Right. Yeah. And yeah,
That's
what else can I say about that?
yeah, no, I really honestly nothing else you can say about that. Like if you're anybody who's experiencing these things, like there's hope, man. Like I think that's the thing that we can say. There's hope. Like Mark
Yeah,
there's two people on this screen right now that can prove that there's hope and that there's better things and that the feelings can come back. That's what I felt. I felt like I felt like my soul was black. I had nothing. I had no
yeah.
empathy. I had no feeling for other people, and that is the opposite of what I have now. Like that you really
I
hit
can
home with me
smell
was
the
the mask.
aroma.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, the
Smell
mask,
the
man.
coffee aroma, and I can feel the hugs of my kids again.
Yes.
That was one of the things I was just shocked, and I got emotional on it when when I understood, I liberated myself from PTSD, and I started noticing these small things, but it created such a gratitude within myself. Like, I remember very vividly that Daniela came up with a cup of coffee and she gave me a kiss and she says, "Here you go." And I just fell in love again and I smelled the aroma and it was just so intense. Whilst a year before that, for example, it was just, yeah, you don't get coffee in bed. You give a kiss, but that's just a kiss. Like, there's no, uh, you're not there. You're on
Yeah.
autopilot. 95% of the time, you're on autopilot. Now, I'm 100% here,
Yeah. Present.
present,
Yeah, I feel you, man.
and
I love hearing stuff
that's
like this.
amazing.
I love hearing stuff like this. Okay, man. So if somebody did want to buy the book, you said it's going to be released in English soon. Amazon or your website, is that where we should be sending people?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pre-order button on the website now, so that's definitely possible. The point is, though, I'm currently trying to understand how Amazon works with regards to Kindle, like print on demand, or
Right.
I just focus on ebook. So I'm just, I have, not like you, I don't have 36 hours in a day.
Go get out of
Um,
here.
It is. So it's a lot of what's going on. So I'm trying my best, and I'll keep you in the loop with regards to when.
Yeah, let me know, man, and we'll
Um,
hype it out on our show here, and maybe
yeah,
we'll do another show because this is definitely not
cool.
the last time you and I are going to talk. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and then just in the last 10 days, it's pretty crazy how like there's that connection that just happens with people who've been through similar events and have similar mindsets, man. So it is truly an
Hmm.
honor. I'm so happy that you came on the show today, and let me know if there's anything we can do or I can do to support you. I'm there for you, man.
Cool.
Cool, man. So thank you so much, and I hope everybody enjoyed today. And Mark is certainly some kind of inspiration. And like every episode of the Tango One podcast, this one was brought to you by Murray Insurance. They are our number one. They're our go-to when it comes to industry. They're the industry leaders in concierge claims and everything you need to do with insurance. They're owned by Garage Gym OGs Ian and Karen Murray, and their team prides themselves on the high standards that we have come to expect. They are a one-stop shop for everything to protect you, your family, and your assets. And you can give them a call at 519-733-2331. And don't forget to get on hqnutrition.canada.ca and grab your supplements there where you use code TANGO15. So that'll be it for the show. Thanks again, Mark, for hanging out. I'm just going to hit stop
Appreciate it.
record. Cheers, brother.
Now's the time to do more and be more.